Welcome all of our friends across Domo for this partner event live stream. I'm thrilled to be hosting several of these live streams and all of these events that are happening across all of our social medias. And today, as you see, I'm joined by RXA. But before we get there, let me just introduce what's happening over the next several days, several weeks here at Domo. In fact, if you haven't given this channel a subscribe, we've got a lunch and learn coming up this Thursday, which I'll link in the comments below. We're going to have partner events, community user events, and dedicated subject matter experts to do lunch and learns with you, hopefully on a weekly basis, to talk all about the great things happening here at Domo. I can't share a ton of details with you, so the only way to get notified of these events is to make sure you're subscribed, make sure you like and follow all of the things on all Domo social media channels, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, LinkedIn. But today, I have the distinct honor of introducing RXA. Not only are they our current partner of the year, but RXA has been a leading data science consultant company. And as a result of their work with Domo, they recently showcased a mixed media optimization model at our Salt Lake City Connections tour. And immediately everyone in the room thought, how in the world do we get more eyeballs on this? So here we are, me and Jason to start, but Jason is going to be joined by his partner, Jonathan Prantner. Jason is the founder and CEO with over 20 plus years in data science. And Jonathan is the co-founder and CAO, who also has 20 plus years leading analytics teams. They're going to be an incredible resource for you over the next 20 to 30 minutes. And I can't wait for them to demo some Domo and some of the great work they've been doing inside of our tool. Jason and Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, Jason, Jonathan has stepped away for a few, had a little bit of an emergency he had to take care of, but he will be with us in the next few minutes. So I'm excited to pop him back on the screen when I see that he's back joining us to be a part of this. But in my research over RXA, some folks may not be familiar, you guys have something near and dear to my heart, obviously video and audio production nut over here, but I stumbled upon your RXA Real Intelligence podcast. So before we dive into some of the things you're going to talk about, I'm sure you'll overview the company. Talk a little bit about the work you're doing in that space.
Well, first, I'll also add, thanks so much for having us. Super excited to be here. Yeah. Super excited to be a part of this. Really proud to be, invited to do things like this, like the Connections event and this. So really appreciate it. So thank you, Domo. Our Real Intelligence podcast. So we the evolution of that is we had been putting on these conferences each year. And we were hosting them here, and you guys have been a huge sponsor of our conferences, A2AI, here in Ann Arbor, where we're founded and headquartered. We realized, through sort of the pandemic, we needed to pivot. And so rather than continue to do other virtual conferences, which are just as much work, quite frankly, as doing them in person, we decided to put that same effort and energy into a podcast that would highlight folks in the data, business intelligence, data science field, and have them just sort of share, kind of career mentoring type advice. And so we launched that earlier this year. And so far we're super lucky with the folks who we've had to participate. We did have Christy Raleigh join us, Domo's principal data scientist, not too long ago. So that podcast is out there. And I think it's just been these kind of real conversations with people about their career, who their mentors were, what strategies they've used to find success in sort of this data field, and really more of the, not on the technical side, but more on the human career management side. And it's been great. We love it.
Yeah, as director of community here at Domo, I have been just absolutely floored with the work that our partners and our customers and our community kind of do on their own to create these mini networks and these mini connections across a landscape of folks that just really love data and analytics. And to see that you're already diving in, and again, Christy was a guest on your show, who's our director of data science and principal data scientist here at Domo. in that show in December. So I will make sure that I link that show down below. I'll link the podcast below in the comments so people can check that out. But at this point, I think I've done a lot of talking, maybe a little stalling for Jonathan as well. But I want to make sure that we get to all of the great things that RXA is doing. So at this point, Jason, the floor is yours. We'll let you get started.
Awesome. Thanks. And I'll say too, if anyone listening is interested in being on the podcast, we do have some open spots left to fill this year. I think we have two maybe open spots this year. So it did actually quite fill up. We're super pumped with how many people did, but there are still 2 spots. So, yeah. So thanks. So with that, I've got a few. I brought a couple of slides to show, because that's sort of my how I work these days. So I'm going to walk through a little bit of a brief overview of kind of who RXA is. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of our solutions. And then Jonathan's going to go ahead and run through a demo for us. So I would like to share my screen, Eddie. Lovely. Thank you. So we'll run through this. So quick overview, just, we're a leading data science consulting company. That's our core. So we do a lot of data engineering, data science, business intelligence, visualization, sort of the whole suite there. We also provide staffing services as well. So for folks looking to hire folks, we bring folks in and do direct placement and staffing. And then we offer some custom solutions and things. And so we're going to talk more about our custom solutions. We have lots of customers, lots of different verticals, a very broad kind of leadership team. We do have folks in Australia too, so we do support folks in APAC for Domo. It's all Domo work over there for us. And as Eddie mentioned, yes, we're Domo partner of the year. Very proud of that. We do work with several technology partners. Domo is definitely our go-to main partner that we work with. Won lots of awards over the years there, but we also help really bring in data from other sources into Domo. So we actually have developed partnerships and connectivity between these other platforms, helping bring data into Domo to help there. We already talked a lot about the podcast, but yes, you can see Christy was there in December. Heather Fitzgerald is our current one that's out there. She's at Jackson, one of our customers. So we run at RXA. So we've got these AI-based growth marketing solutions. So we do a lot of kind of general data science work, but in particular, when it comes for us to build kind of these product and more productized solutions, this is where our focus is. And so we have this media mix modeling and multi-touch attribution, which kind of comprise our media optimization work that Jonathan's going to walk through. But we also do a few other things in the Domo suite as well. So voice of customer experience application was the Domo application of the year just a couple of years ago. You can see some case studies on that. If you Google that or search that in the Domopalooza video archives, you can find ESPN talking about their work with that. We've got a process that we follow. I think it's pretty straightforward, but we help folks kind of through from concept all the way through to operationalizing the AI and BI work. Some shameless self-promotion. Our customers like us. Yes, your way, ESPN. So people like working with us. I'm going to skip through some of our case studies. And so we do, though, kind of getting into the meat of the discussion today. So Jonathan Prantner is going to talk through a few of these media optimization solutions that we have. And so I want to be really clear that we're very transparent in our work. So we are very happy to answer questions today, tomorrow, whenever. We like to help folks use stuff. So to the point that Jonathan's actually written journal articles about our work. And in this article in particular, it goes into great detail on how we do MTA, the techniques we use, why we've made the choices that we've made, and stuff like that. So we're super happy just to share. We do answer calls and questions and things about any of this work. And so please feel free to reach out directly to us or even in the chat today. and we'll go from there. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jonathan, who's going to talk through some of the details.
I was going to say, Jason, we have the man, the myth, the legend,
Oh,
who was
great.
alluding to us at the beginning of this stream. Here he is, Jonathan Brantner. Thank you so much for being able to pop on. I know it's been a little bit of a hectic morning for you, so we appreciate you, putting in the time and effort to be here. We're super excited to see what you have for us. Jason obviously gave us a little bit of an overview. I may have shamelessly promoted RXA as much as I could at the beginning. So just a little bit of that. But excited to turn it over to you so you can kind of share some of the great work you're doing inside Domo. I see that you have shared your screen, so I'm going to push that content now if you're ready.
Well, first, I think we have a couple slides that Jason's going to continue walking through that I'm going to speak to. And so first off, everyone, thank you so much for joining. We always love to talk about the exciting things we're doing in the field, but me personally, coming from a background, spending years at Nielsen, spending time at the agency side, talking about media is something that I really love because it's really interesting, and Domo is such a great tool for bringing that to life. And so we're going to start off by really talking about how we think of media optimization, because as this landscape has changed, we've seen it go from, everything which was not trackable at all, traditional media mix modeling, into the multi-touch attribution, where we've been able to follow consumers through their entire journey and their entire path. Back trending now, where we have increases in privacy, we have apps that ask whether or not you would allow them to track your data. So really think about how we bridge that gap. And at RXA, what we like to think about is really taking it from the media optimization side. So when you have that direct information that's available, that's where the multi-touch attribution comes to play. So if we're able to track consumers, see what they were exposed to in terms of, say, programmatic media, so search, display, and social across their journey, use the models to properly allocate that information. So you get that kind of known customer where you're able to track their media exposure and you're able to track their conversions. From there, we also like to, then take that and incorporate it into traditional media mix modeling. So bringing that information that you have at the customer level, looking at it in aggregate. So now as we think about how many impressions we're putting in market, what some of the different points are there, we're able to understand how we can better plan and execute our media. And so with that, one of the great things about the Domo platform is that you're able to bring all of this information together. So you bring all of your media together. You can actually run your models in there because there is a Jupyter Notebook integration that you can have. So you can do all of the media modeling, all of the multi-touch attribution within there. And that allows you to really switch the lens of traditional media mix, because media mix has always been, okay, we're going to run an analysis in Q1. We're going to look at how our media did last year. We're going to understand the return on investment, and then we're going to plan going forward. Well, with Domo, since once you bring in all that data to do your historic analysis, you can take that, have ongoing reporting, and also have scenario planning. So you're able to go through and allow marketers to measure the impact of all of those different pieces of media that are in market, what that impact is in terms of sales, and then use that for your future planning. And with that, one of the things we like to do at RXA is take this concept of two-stage media mix modeling, because a lot of brands, they're going to speak to you really in two different ways. They're going to talk to you to say, okay, I want you to buy this today. And they know that certain parts of the consumer base are going to be ready to embrace that. But for other consumers, it's more, hey, we want you to know our brand. So when you are ready to buy, how we can use that information later. And at RXA, we do this through this concept of two-stage media mix modeling. And so what that means is we look at media from the traditional way. So we say, okay, we have kind of our seasonal components, we have whatever economic impacts, we have our pricing strategy, our competition, we have the media that's in market. How did this relate to sales? But what that does is it leaves you with this kind of baseline of brand health. And so what we like to do is we bring together a measure of brand awareness. So if you're working with a brand that has brand trackers, great. If not, we merge together social media data, search information, visits to their own websites. If it's a product, we look at it in terms of glance views on Amazon, distill that all down into a couple of different metrics that help explain the baseline for that conversion model. But then we take the media and we actually regress it against those metrics. So we're able to see how that works and how the two stages are there. And so with that, I think we will switch over to the demonstration, and I'll give kind of an example of this, showing both first quickly how we can do it from the reporting side, and then how that works from the media planning side. So looking at it here, we have a sample brand, which is a lifestyle brand, and we can see their overall return on investment that they have. So they're getting $2.13. When we combine together that conversion base $2.13 with that additional awareness impact that we have, we can see it pushes them up to almost $3. And so what that tells us is then when we're able to kind of decompose their total sales volume and basically take what they're selling on a weekly basis and say this much was contributed from your pricing strategy, this much was contributed from the media that you had in market, this is what you did with influencers. Based on all of that, we're able to kind of take that look. And then with that brand awareness, we are actually able to break that down into these different aspects. So perception and consideration. And we can see what the impact of media has there and how that contributes additionally. And you can see within the Domo platform, we're able to bring all this information together. We have the models working in the background so that we have essentially all of those different relationships for them. And then we're able to estimate on an ongoing basis what the media will look like. Where it really becomes powerful, though, is once we start to take a look at going forward and how we use that for planning. And so here's a demonstration which is based off of that same kind of lifestyle brand that we're considering. So we're considering this as a brand which has, different products that an individual might like to use for, relaxation or for walking or for enjoying nature, all of those different kinds of things. And so based on that, if we had a client that was looking to spend at a quarterly level and set their budgets, we're able to say, okay, for this client, we are going to see if we had $12 million to spend, how would we allocate that? And we're able to then kind of hit optimize here, and it takes it down. It breaks that 12 million down into each of the different channels based on what that overall return on investment would be. So if we, imagine this, they're spending $12 million across the quarter, we should spend about 50,000 of that on Amazon. So, from that, we're going to expect almost $7,000 in units, which will give us about $173,000 in profit. And that will give us that return on investment of $2.59. So that's what we expect to see in the short term there. But when we're looking at it at that longer term and understanding that additional awareness impact, we can see we'll get an additional 23 cents for each dollar spent that will help build that brand. So our overall return on investment goes up to $2.82. From here, then we also are able to take the relationships that we have to see that breakdown between product and brand spend, what we would expect on their own .com site versus what would be coming through Amazon, which versus what would be coming through other locations, which would, in this case, primarily be either brick and mortar sales or that kind of brick to click online retailer aspect. And then it's able to give us a suggestion. So in this case, we understand that the channel reached a point of diminished returns, but hasn't reached that saturation point. So if a media planner is looking at this, they can say, okay, well, what if I wanted to drop that down to 35,000 per week? What can I expect in terms of my return on investment there? And I can see here that, we still have a similar outcome. If I wanted to increase it up to 70,000 a week, am I going to hit that point of diminished return? So now we're past that point of diminished return. So we really should allocate across those other channels. So if I want to drop that back down to a healthy 60,000, I can then take that other 10,000 and say, okay, well, what if I were to put that into Instagram? And this allows us to, take all the results that come out of that media mix model, put it together in a way that's useful for planners. But if they don't understand kind of what these breakdowns would mean across things, we have a separate tool which allows us to take a look at those different points on the curve. And so now the example we're looking at here is something which would be relative in any type of franchise aspect. So here we're thinking about it from an automotive lens, but if we wanted to look at it from a sales lens, from restaurants, from any other type of franchise-based store, we can do that. So here they're spending money to generate leads, which will ultimately convert to sales. And so as we look across what the spend would be, so this is imagining that our friend Jason here has an auto dealership in Ann Arbor where RXA is headquartered. So if he did, we could understand based on their spend levels that, looking at their search spend, they have reached this breakthrough point. So this is kind of that first inflection in the curve to say, okay, where is that point where we have reached enough consumers for it to really be beneficial for us, to have that economy of scale that we're actually going to see a return from it, especially important in the display and social channels there, because if you're not getting in front of enough people, you're not going to reach enough of your target to make a point there. But going on from there, where would we suggest they spend? So if we wanted to take them up to kind of this suggested optimization level, that's looking right before that point of diminished return. So we say, okay, up until this point, each dollar we're spending is getting us the same amount or more. But now we know once we reach here, we get less of a marginal ROI. So every additional dollar that we spend will be less impactful. But we still, if we examine the shape of the curve, can see it's quite a ways to get to that saturation point. So even though it's less effective, it may still be beneficial for us to increase that spend. We can see it's not doing much of a change to our cost per lead, but we are increasing the number of leads, increasing the number of sales that are associated with that. So based on the technology that exists within Domo, once again able to develop all of these models based on the aspects that we have with Jupyter workspaces, with the R and Python integrations to be able to run the models, get the coefficients that will allow us to report out on performance, to understand what that looks like across different lenses, to be able to easily filter, see what that impact looks like across either a single retailer or a single section, and then also to kind of plan accordingly going forward. So now our media mix is not just historic looking, it also gives us a read on every single week of how our media is being executed and what our expected return is from that. And it helps us plan going forward how we can best execute media in the future.
And I'll say too, Jonathan, one of the things I love about how we're kind of bringing this to life through these, we call these like data apps or data applications, is that everything's kind of within, like Domo makes it easy, right? So there's the data science components are made. We have the techniques that we'd recommend folks use, right? So like how, and folks can use their own kind of media questions in that, but the being able to bring these to life in the Domo platform in a way that lets media planners use these tools, I think that's what makes this unique. And yeah, we definitely welcome any comments and questions as we go, for sure.
Definitely. And so from that side, I know we have a few minutes left here. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on was how we're able to then integrate what we have in terms of that kind of lead generation and how that multi-touch attribution blends together with the media mix modeling. Because here we're looking at an example of a client that would be in the financial space. So looking at kind of a mortgage logo. So once again, they're attempting to drive leads. And so from that, you have a certain number of leads that are qualified, certain number of total leads across there. We're able to bring that information in and start to layer essentially model on top of model, which is completely transparent to the end user, because now not only do we have those multi-touch attribution models for everywhere where we have direct tracking, we also have the media mix models to tell us those inflection points. And then when we look at something like leads, it's very easy to then bring in a lead quality analysis where we're able to classify those leads based on their likelihood of conversion, based on that initial information. So we're now able to track not only those directly influence customers, know the overall impact of our media, we understand the quality of our leads, and we can improve our targeting from that individual perspective. If we're going to use that to feed programmatic media buying, we're going to understand how we should relate to our different partners when we speak to them. And we can also understand the blend of leads that we're getting, because one of the things that we have to be aware of in the media space is it's always easy to bring more eyeballs, but it's hard to bring those right eyeballs at that point. And the example in this mortgage space that we had was, if we scroll down into our media monitoring dashboard, we had a case where we looked across kind of the cost versus qualified leads. And they were doing a lot of DRTV at that point. And what we found was that they were spending in kind of certain blocks. And so they were doing a lot on like the Hallmark channel, the American Heroes channel, Heroes and Icons, the Golf channel, some of those that, may be targeted to kind of a certain group, which was responding well for them. But what we found was, when we looked across these kind of channel clusters, we can see here that we have this channel cluster where a lot of that media fell into. It's the largest one by size. It's getting a pretty good average impressions per 100,000 spent. It's doing well on the qualified leads front. But then we also see this other area of opportunity where we have much less spend, but essentially is a little bit more valuable in terms of cost per leads, and actually a little bit cheaper in CPM. And so with this, talking about Domo allowing you to layer additional models on, we built out an elasticity model where we're able to see, okay, well, if I were to increase my spend by 10% in this channel cluster that I've been using historically, I would expect to see about, a 0.2% increase in terms of my qualified leads. But in this channel where I'm actually spending less, if I increase that by 10%, I would almost move up a half percentage point in terms of my qualified leads. So we're able to layer insight on top of insight in a way that becomes just focused on the end user and the decisions that they're trying to make. And it allows us to break down the wall between this kind of historic data science taking place over here, business users over here, and just really with Domo being able to bridge that gap so we can take advantage of all of the insights that we have, put it in the hands of the decision makers.
Yeah, Jonathan, sorry about that. I just want to pop in here. We did have a question come through on YouTube. One of our viewers, John, has asked, and we can answer it now, or you can wait till later. We're very flexible here on the Domo live stream.
Yes.
What sources of data are required to begin implementing such a tool, both first party and online data? Any help you can give, John?
Certainly. So from that, John, what I would say is you need to have access to your own media data, which, believe it or not, is a challenge for a lot of folks, because when you work with agencies, being able to get that and integrate it together can be difficult. But with Domo, you can set things up in terms of email connectors so that they can actually send those spreadsheets directly. They're integrated into it from there. And then you need to have some sort of trackable sales measure. So where we often see people stumble is for what I'll call smaller organizations where they don't have point of sale data. They're not doing a lot on their own website, and they really have shipment data. So they know what they're sending to Walmart, but they don't know when it's being purchased. So if you have something, and as we showed here in this case, it can be leads. It does not necessarily need to be a sale. It can be visits to your website, but you need to have a trackable conversion metric that you want to optimize against. If you have sufficient data with that, we like to go back 3 to 5 years whenever possible. 3 years is kind of the standard, because you end up modeling off of 2 years using that first year to better understand the seasonality. But if you have 2 to 3 years worth of historic sales data, pricing data, and media data, you're able to dive into something like this. From the multi-touch attribution side, that's where you need the linkage of that individual customer, and you get into things along the lines of identity resolution. But we see a lot of organizations that are working with either Google Analytics or with Adobe. You're actually able to just take advantage of the website data that you have in the tracking, because you know the landing pages that people came in on. And then you also kind of reframe that multi-touch attribution lens into looking at your own site and understanding the different aspects of your site, and not only how the media is helping drive sales, but then how, the search or comparable products or incentives and discounts available, how all of those different aspects are help leading to conversion.
Thanks, Jonathan, for that. We always welcome any comments or suggestions, questions that you have. Those will be down in the comment section. So you just ask those directly. For this sake on YouTube, we'll pop them up. Jonathan will answer them as quick as he can. Any parting thoughts here? We've got a few more minutes. Don't feel like I'm rushing you out of the live stream. We got plenty of time. So Jonathan, I'll let you pick it back up. And when you feel like we're ready to go, we can kind of wrap things up. And any other questions that come through, I'll just pop in and give you those prompts so we can get those answered. Thanks for doing that. Appreciate it.
Oh, certainly. Jason, I don't know if you have anything additional you'd like to chime in with at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered. I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, I think the biggest things are, utilizing, like for us, it's like utilizing this Domo data aggregation layer, right? As you're saying, bringing these things together, then you can plug in the data science tools that you want to use, and you can create these visualizations that help you, optimize the media. So from a media planning tool perspective that we talked about, those custom applications, and then also just general media performance reporting as well. So like for us, like it's really convenient to have all of this in one package versus having to go to a variety of different sources and aggregate it together. So for us, that's what makes it easy here. And we're happy to help too, as I mentioned, talk through some of the different techniques and, getting, specific about things. We've given Domopalooza presentations where we give out code and how we do like customer lifetime value code and things like that. So we're happy to help. So definitely please reach out to us. If not today, whenever you find yourself in need, we're happy to be there.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point that I'll build on for just a second there is, there's been a lot of talk in the news with the kind of initial success of ChatGPT and other things out there, and understanding that, coding may become easier over the next few years because it's like we'll be able to use tools to help us do things. And that's why at RXA, we've always taken that transparency point of view because, what is most important to bring to the table is figuring out how you can fit all of these pieces together. It's each of the individual executions across there can be something that can be bite-sized and manageable. So when we're looking at something like media optimization, it's understanding how we want to bring in the impact of spending in other channels or spending in other categories. Is it increasing my sales overall, or am I just cannibalizing by moving into a new area? What does it look like for me in terms of my pricing strategy? Because that's one of the biggest things. How price sensitive are my different consumers? Are those that come to my site different from those that shop for me on Target or Amazon? So it's, thinking about media in that holistic point of view from I'm a customer making a decision on what to buy. And with the power of Domo bringing in all of that information, you can start to get this 360 view of all of the influences that would be targeting that consumer.
Love it. Jason, Jonathan, thank you guys so much. Jason talked about it a little bit earlier, but if anybody has any questions post live stream, because this does exist after we hit end broadcast, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of either you or Jonathan? Jason was kind enough as a CEO to just give his email out during the live stream. So I'm assuming it's just Jason at RXA.io.
Yep.
Jonathan, are you similar to that?
Yep.
So I can go ahead and put it on the comment section.
Certainly, you can find me at jp@rxa.io.
Yeah, LinkedIn as well. We also have a LinkedIn channel or group that we maintain inspired by Domo. So feel free to join that, and we can talk there too.
Yeah, and as I said, I always find this stuff really interesting, and I'm always happy to talk through with people because what comes next often comes out of those conversations. The question that I haven't thought to ask yet that someone else asks becomes the kind of springboard for us to keep moving media analysis forward.
Well, we are so appreciative of your time. We know you guys are both extremely busy. As I mentioned before, just an incredible resource for our users out there and our folks that are looking at this type of data analysis. So we couldn't be more grateful. Thank you so much for being a part of this live stream. At this point, we're going to end this first ever partner live stream at Domo across our social media channels. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out to Jason. Please reach out to Jonathan. Look them up on LinkedIn. Check out their website. All of the great things that RXA has been able to do with Domo, our current partner of the year. So thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it.
Love it. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.